How you doing, everybody? Hey, Hugh, I'm glad to see you're awake. Hey, Dominic. Hi, Jeffrey. How you doing? Uh, Good. It's evening there, morning here. How did the day go today, Jeffrey? I want to know ahead of time. Oh, well, um, well, we got a lot to talk about today. The One of the things. Hi, Junior. How you doing? Uh, One of the things I wanted to talk about before we get into the project and so forth was hi Maurizio, how you doing? Uh, oh, hey, by the way, is the sound okay in the picture? Hi Lee, hi Tony. Good. Hi Indrajit, how you doing? Okay, good. Sound okay? Más o menos. Sounds good. Okay. Audio has a slight crackle. Yeah, it could be something on here. I don't know. Um, Okay, here's what I wanted to talk about. Some of you may have been there. I don't know if you were or not. But the other day, there was a Zoom meeting that a bunch of guys had, and they were talking about their choices. Hi, John. They were talking about their choices for the Grand Prix Awards. Um, the the whole issue was not what they chose, but about the insistence of their choices. Like, I mean, it wasn't like, here there, I don't know how many watches there are total in the Grand Prix Award, but there are quite a few. And so all of these different speakers were going on, well, this is what I choose, and this is what I choose, and so forth. But it wasn't just that. That's fine. I mean, what I learned a long time ago, you got to be really humble. Some years on picking them, I do really well. One year I had 100% on the pre-selected. Other years, like last year, I do terrible. And so I've learned a bit of humility, and I think that goes a long way. But what I think also is important was that I really wasn't hearing the reasoning behind why they chose it, other than sort of a superficial element of it. Now, there's some watches I like and some brands I really like, but I take a look at their entry into one of the categories in the Grand Prix, and it's like, didn't they look at the background of that? And so I say that because I think two things can happen by looking at the Grand Prix. First of all, I think you can really learn a lot about watches and good and bad watches. And also, too, um, the whatever you pick, you do it with a a pinch of humility, because if you don't, you end up doing one or two things. You end up being a whiner, saying the whole thing is rigged, or you feel stupid. You shouldn't feel. I don't think so. I think you can learn something. Now you may not agree. One of the famous ones I think was back in 2017 when the Sports Watch Award went to what was it, Eberhard. Okay, they had like about a $2,500 Eberhard what they call it, Scraffograph 300, and it won. Now, it just so happened that I knew the judge who I guess was in charge of that group, because he was the one who announced the award and so forth. And I said, you know, what in the world did they give it to them for? And he told me, so it was very interesting. He said, well, he said, we looked at the functions that that watch could do, and we looked at the price, and then here were these other watches that had pretty much the same material. Usually, and I think this was the big one, the Eberhard at the time had an ETA movement, and then they put on top of it whatever stuff they needed uh, for their watch. So they told me, they said, this watch did more than a lot of these other ones that were a lot more expensive, or they did exactly as much, and it was so much cheaper. I mean, it was like, I remember there was this one Ulysse Nardine that was like, I don't know, $150,000, some crazy price like that. They figured, well, we'll just beat them up with our price, and it didn't work out. Now, the thing about it is that out come the conspiracy theorists. Well, we all know that it's all rigged and so on and so forth. From everything I know, from talking to this particular judge, who's got a lot of insight, he says there may be some of that, but not very much. I mean, you hear the same thing for the Academy Awards, like, oh, the whole thing is rigged, and yeah, I don't know. There's probably some undue influence. I've always wondered why Tudor won so many, and it was sort of like the same model. Black Bay kept winning again and again and again and again. I thought, is there that much new about it? And I've always suspected that because it's the only Rolex brand that's been entered lately. Back, I think, 2007 or some year like that, Rolex entered a couple watches. They both lost big time, and they quit putting them in since then. And so they put in, we'll let the kid go out there. We'll put in our Tudor, and Tudor's done pretty well. Now, again, that's just another, stupid conspiracy theory that the whole thing is because of Rolex. But then if you start looking at it closely and you look at the movements and some of the other things behind the other watches that are competing against it, there's usually the nod would go to Tudor on a, like a perfectly objective kind of thing. So anyway. Okay. Hey, Raj, how you doing, man? Let's see. Let's be honest. Hugh, since when have we been honest? That's what I want to know. Since when has the watch business been honest? Okay, so we'll be honest. Let's see. 95% of people online think that a gold bracelet means it's become high horology. Of course, they'll believe in conspiracy theories. Of course. What was I thinking? Hey, Tim, how you doing? How's Manchester by the Sea? It's not in the sea yet, is it? Oh. Okay. Enough of that. Hi, Clyde. How you doing, man? Yeah. I'll tell you, quarantine. A friend of mine and I meet once a week. We've done this for years. We always have coffee together. And I'm getting more and more afraid of doing that because we go to this place, this Italian bakery, has, really good bakery and coffee and so forth. We used to go to Starbucks, but Starbucks is like, I think you have to sit outside and they don't have any tables or anything. But the thing was this weekend, by the way, this is Labor Day weekend. I better put on my white suit for this afternoon because this is the last time before Labor Day that I can wear white. I'll have my white linen suit for this afternoon. Labor Day. Okay. So anyhow, that was my view of that. It wasn't so much the choices, whether I agree with them or, I've blown it before, so I'm not going to get overly confident. I'll put it that way. But you look at something and you say, "Oh, that's interesting," and then you sort of start digging through them. And I think it's a great way to learn about them because the materials that they have about a watch, if a watch is saying, "Oh, we've got a Swiss movement," and they don't tell you what kind, they don't say what it is, and you got a pretty good idea what it is. Jail. Hall screwed up and brought over a client who tested. Oh my God. Hi, William. How you doing, man? Woo. Day 4. Oh, Clyde, are you in quarantine? Listen, I've been in quarantine since I don't know how long. We had this great opportunity. There was like literally this mansion up in Maine, and they invited us to come up there and stay with them. And we were some other couples. And man, I tell you, this place is like an estate, really, really fancy. And we thought about it and thought about it and decided, no, we've been out and, avoiding this whole thing and avoiding social contact. I mean, it's like, going to the grocery store or the doctors or some other thing that we have to go to is one thing. But boy, I tell you, some of these gatherings, as much fun as they would be, and I think they're expecting a spike over the Labor Day holiday. I am so glad this is the time to be an old guy, trust me, because especially retired and you live out in the sticks, because I really feel bad for kids, going to starting college or something like that. I did that for close to 50 years being a university professor, and that's kids do. They have fun doing this kind of stuff. But man, it must be awfully hard. And it's hard for everybody, really. But if you're old, retired, you can hang out and talk to each other over Zoom or something. Oh, man. Hughes, that was cruel. That was just plain cruel. Hey, Tony, I've dodged the bullet on the virus so far, but have two sisters and a nephew that had it left. Man, that's rough. I tell you what, who was it? Jeffrey got the silver bullet. He got they passed him, and he ended up getting the antibodies. That's the way to do it. Man. Hey, John, more and more people know. I know are getting COVID. We had, I won't say this person is a friend because they're definitely not a friend, but they are acquaintance to somebody who was, I guess, a friend, very close. And he got it. And that was like early on. And, he was very fortunate, especially for someone his age, and did okay. For weeks in Shanghai, gyms, restaurant, all open and full. Yeah, Jeffrey, they took care of business in Shanghai. We didn't. They're expecting 400,000 deaths. My God, by November. Holy smoke, or by the end of the year, 400,000. That's a lot. Ooh, be careful, Clyde. Do what they tell you. Yeah. Yeah, Jeffrey, you were. I tell you, and it's a good thing, though. I mean, like, there are probably more people who have mild symptoms and then end up with the antiviral thingamajigs, the antibodies, than there are people who are, these poor guys who are in real. But I mean, we got like over 4 or 5 million. I don't know. We've not done well. I'll put it that way. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I am looking forward to any year, but not 2020. I think we'll look back on 20 years. What a year. Why couldn't we have skipped 2020 and gone from 2019 to 2021? Then we'd be able to skip the whole election miasma that's going on, and we'd come back and, we got a cure and so on and so forth. So anyway, we'll see what happens. All right. Okay, let's switch definitely away from anything other than watches. Okay. Life is short. Let's go all in on Agonor. Okay. I'm Hugh. I'm with you. Now, what we did is exactly what I said last week that we we're going to do. Is set up a website called. Again, I should have printed out the name for it, but the name of it is Retrograde Jump Project. Okay, and so the Retrograde Jump Project is a Facebook page, and what I asked people to do when they signed up was that whether they're willing to commit a certain amount of money to a watch or not. And most people didn't say anything. They just moved. So I don't know where we're going to be on that. But I mean, at some point, and in the pretty near future, we're going to have to go back to them and say, okay, we got X number of people who we can be sure who are going to go and do this. Now, if it's too low, and which would make the unit price too high for us, then we're going to have to bag the whole thing. Either that, or go with an ETA or a Vaucher as an alternative. But rarely do we ever get an opportunity like this to have a custom-made movement, because that's what it is, on top of a manufactured, a brand manufacturer. I hate to call Agenhor a brand. There's so much as a watchmaker, a real watchmaker in Jean-Marc Wiederreich. I mean, it's like, I was thinking, if about 20 years ago, when Dufour, he was offering watches. I forgot what they, with the singularity and the duality, and I think he wanted like $20,000 a piece. And people at the time, who's this guy? They didn't know him from Adam's odd ox, except those who did know knew, right? Man, I tell you, we wish I'd done that. Now, on the other hand, I got like super dumb lucky a few years ago, and the FP Journe, the resonance, just went up to the sky. But the thing is, I don't want to worry about that. I want to worry about getting a really good watch, and then we end up with a really good watch. We're not going to have to worry about the price. Trust me, one way or the other. It could be worth nothing, or it could be worth a sky high. But we'd have a really good watch. And I think that's the focal point that I'd like to sort of look at. Okay. Yeah, quote the Craven Agenhor. Oh, Clyde, that's perfect. Let's see. The superstition of traditional Chinese medicine persists. Yeah. Well, we got, I don't know what to tell you. I'm going to move away from that because it's too full of just craziness. I'm going to pretend that from 1 year from today, what it'll be like. By then we hope to have an effective and safe vaccine. Right now, a lot of people, the majority of the country says, they don't want to take some super fast track vaccine. And, then they find out later that they grew a tail or something like that because it didn't go through all of the phases. So what I'm hoping for is that by this time next year, see, what is it, September? That what we'll be doing is looking forward to the October New York Watch Time show. And a bunch of us who go there will be going again, and we don't have to wear a mask. I hate wearing masks, but I wear them. I'll put it that way. In fact, that's why I don't mind staying at home and working in the yard and doing stuff like that, because I don't have to wear a mask. Yeah, but boy, I tell you, I leave the house and on it goes, even though I don't like to. It's one of those things. Okay, well, never mind. Let's talk about some other stuff. What is the ballpark estimate on the total watch with Agenhor movement? Tony. Okay, Tony. What I would like is this. I would like to see something closer to 6,000 Swiss francs, if we could. I mean, if Agenhor, because see, this has got to work for Agenhor and it's got to work for us. All right. If it doesn't work for one, the deal goes flat. If we can't have enough people, or Agenhor can't bring their price to where we have enough people that can afford it, that's out of it. Looking at the total price of the watch is something that I prefer not to do now for this reason. We have no idea what the case would cost. The one by Wooten, Lonan, and Kalin, or some people may say, "Well, I got the movement, and that's all I care about. I'll have to save up and get my own case or and dial and the rest of it themselves," which isn't unreasonable. I mean, you got a movement like this, and the rest of the stuff isn't anywhere near as important. All right, especially with people who have some experience with watchmaking. And so this is something to say, oh well, this is going to be the final cost on it. What I think we need to concentrate on is one thing at a time, because that's all we can realistically do. Now, once we have our movement in our grubby little hands, we can do all kinds of stuff with it. I've got two, what are they? Regulator movements. I don't know why I bought them, but I had to have them, so I bought them. So I have these two regulator movements. They came with those little, temporary hands on them. So I wind them up and watch them go. And I had to have a case or a dial or anything else. But the big thing is that once you get the movement, if we find out that the cases are going to be really expensive or a really good deal, that'll depend how many people are going to go on with that, and that will also determine the final cost. But with the price range for the Agenor, that's pretty much where we are right now. So I think I'd rather figure that than saying, oh well, it's going to cost us, maybe 7 or 8 thousand Swiss francs when it's not, or it's going to cost us 10 or 11 thousand Swiss francs when it's not, because we don't know. Okay, Tony, I hope that's not. I hope that's not a. I'm not trying to dither. I'm simply trying to be realistic about that, because as soon as we're not realistic, that's when we get into trouble. Both estimating too high or too low. Let's be honest. Some people need to wear masks before the virus. Everybody needs to wear it before the virus. Hey, Crappy, good morning. How are you today? Hey, Paper Bag, the original mask. Well, those are my blind dates when I was younger. Let's see. Okie doke. I hope so, Tony. It sounds like I'm dithering, but I'm not. I'm trying to say, well, we're going to move ahead with this. We'll be in great shape. For example, if somebody said, I can't sell you the watch, but I can sell you a Dufour Simplicity. Would you be interested? God, would I be? Of course, I'd be interested, because then the case can come in its own good time. I think we can do better price-wise if we go in together on a case. That's why I like the whole idea of having a Wooten, Lonan, and Kalin case. I think it'd be very cool. What would you guys think? I've been looking at the entries in the Grand Prix, and what if we had the name we're using is I'm gonna make a picture of that. The name we're using is the Montreux Premier. I don't have it. I didn't print out a thing with it, but I thought, that name works out pretty well. What would happen if we entered that thing into the Petite Aiguille with full credit to Agenor for the movement, full credit for Wooten, Lonan, and Kalin for the case, and full credit to whomever does the dial for us? I'd be very interested in that. How do you think that would rate against the other Petite Aiguille? Now, the Petite Aiguille category is now under 10,000 and above 4,000 Swiss francs. How do you think that would work? Do you think we'd win an award? Raj, I'll walk away with it. Oh man. Um, hey Thomas, how you doing? Okay. The world is not ready for our genius watch project. It's a conspiracy. I think so too, Hugh. Even though we're behind it, I think you're absolutely right. Uh, but I do think though that we've got all of the everything in place. All of the parts are in place, and so now we sort of got to get it everything coming together. Um, so, all right. Well, listen. This is what we're going to have to do. I got to ask you guys to do it. If you are really going to want to go ahead with this, sign up at the Facebook page called. Let's see. The name of it is the Retrograde Jump Project. Retrograde Jump Project. I got to get a picture of that. I'll put it on High Horology Lounge. I'll put up a little announcement for it. I think one may be there, but I'll do it again anyway. All right. Yeah, Jumping Retrograde Project. Exactly, Tony. That's the name of it. Yeah. And hey, Drew, instead of piecing out the watch, maybe better to have a watchmaker build it from scratch. During this pandemic, there'd probably be a maker who is slow. You know what, Drew? Now, here's something. Boy, there are probably a lot of them who are slow right now. Hi, Andrew. You almost made never. The kind. I mean, oh boy, yeah. You're one of the lucky ones, Andrew. Andrew got one of those chronometer birds that they had celebrating the 20th anniversary, I think, or something of the Dubai FP Jorn shop. All right, get back to what we were talking about. Yeah, the whole idea of doing that. You know what, Drew? What we could do, we could have an option, all right, of getting all of the different ones and then get our own watchmaker to put it together. If there, it shouldn't be that difficult. If we get a case, the right size for the movement and the dial on top of it, because remember last time we talked about the dial and we want to have an enamel dial. But on the other hand, if you wanted to say, okay, look, I got a watchmaker and just send me the case and the movement and the dial, I'll have him make a dial for me. That's fine. I think the only thing we really, again, going back to what I was talking about, once we get the movement, then we have, then our options really open up. And also we have better knowledge of what we can do with the options. Yeah, Drew, that's true. I mean, you want a full price, say, okay, you go to your watchmaker and you get all of these different pieces and say, how much would this to put this together? That might be the way to do it. What about partnering with a watchmaker in the purchase of parts? Well, we got, see, the thing is that the most important part of a watchmaker for a quote in-house movement is a person who's making a movement. And I think we've decided pretty well on going with the Agenor for both the underlying movement as well as the module that's going to do the jumping hours and the retrograde minutes. So, I mean, like I said, we've got options. We don't have to, because, I prefer to put my own together. To me, I don't see it as terribly difficult. And if I run into difficulty, I got my 84-year-old watchmaker. I'll take it to him. He saved my bacon so many times that, and I've learned a lot too. Economies of scale. Yeah. Andrew, this is something that we have some economy of scale, but we're talking about low numbers. I mean, as far as you take something like any one of the major, even some of the smaller watch companies, and they're talking about hundreds or thousands of people. If we can get 25, I think we'd be doing well. I ran into a difficulty. I ordered parts instead of an actual watch. Hugh, oh my goodness. There's a system. Let me see if I have it here, and it's called Establish, and I'll mispronounce it. Of course, I'll mispronounce it because it's French. And even though I try and let me see, it's called Etablissage. And Etablissage. Let me because that I think is pretty close to the right way to pronounce it. Let me write it down here so you see what I have in mind. I don't know if you can do this or not. Yeah, you can. This technique is I found out when I was buying my Daniel Roth watch. He sort of subscribes to that, and he's got this thing that looks like my wife's jewelry tray, all these little boxes and so forth, and she, different earrings and so forth that she puts in them. But what Roth had, it was the same thing, except instead of earrings, he had watch parts. And so, you'd take them and you put them together. Now, what we're doing, we've got like one of those boxes with maybe 4 compartments. One compartment's the movement, the other one's the case, the other one's the dial, and the other one would be the hands. And that's it. So we're not dealing with, we're sort of having either micro or macro établissage. Okay. I also very much prefer to have a watchmaker lined up for assembling before we proceed. That's, this is something we can do this any way you want to do it. Okay. Okay. Hugh, that's a good idea. Here's the problem. Hi, Antonio. Here's the thing that I'm concerned about. I've gone through some, in fact, I'm going through one now, some real problems with a lot of the international shipping of stuff. Okay. I told you about one that I had gone through, but now there's another one, and it's like, it goes all back to the pandemic. And this is the only thing I'm a little leery about is how, if you guys can find a watchmaker who's going to put everything together for you, great. Some people wanted Eddie to do it. I don't know whether Eddie is going to be available. He started Harvard, and they do have in-class things there. Or if you want to get one that probably may be the way to do it was at where you are. See if you have a local one who can put it together for you. Now, if you want to get one, you say, okay, we're going to get Joe to do it. And he's going to put everything together for us. That's fine. But if it were me, I would want to have the movement, the case, and everything else in my hands, and then take it down to a watchmaker and have them assemble it for me. Oh, whatever. Yeah. Hugh, yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm simply saying that with the international shipping issues with the pandemic, we got to, all I care about right now is getting my hands on a movement. Now, which brings up another issue that we're going to have to address, I guess, is that, so let's say that we get the movements that we want. And Agenor says, okay, where do I ship them? Well, in Europe, it's one type of shipment, and probably easier in most of Europe because of the European Common Market and so forth. I know that Switzerland isn't in the Common or the EU, but close enough. And then they can deal with all of the tariffs and so forth. Then you have a different tariff structure in Canada. You have a different one in the US. I have no idea what it is in Asia, but or where in Asia. If you ship it to Japan, it's one thing. If you ship it to China, it's another. I don't know. Malaysia is another area where there are a lot of watch collectors. So these are things I think that we're going to have to come together with. We need a survey on how many members wanted a symbols put together themselves. They need a survey, max dollar spend. Drew, I tell you what, that's why we have the Retrograde Jump project web Facebook page. Okay, so what you can do, Drew, is go there, set up your survey, your poll, and go ahead and do it. I'll just come up to your place and let you, or your 84-year-old watchmaker. Okay, you wear a mask. Yeah, you're socially distanced about a block away. Yeah, no, Mike, my watchmaker, he is so cool. God, I hope he stays well. Because he's, and then he's honest about stuff. I mean, totally honest. Like I took something in and they said, oh, we can't do that. And we had to take it apart. We had to do this. We had to do that. But it's not going to work. And so I thought, okay, how much do I owe you? You don't know us anything. I thought, whoa. But it's like, how to me is that, the other kind of thing that, about parts, someone's going to start saying, well, how about parts? And, I don't know. Here we have a specially made, are we going to have parts? Are they standard parts? Or, who else is going to be able to work on it? Is Facebook still going? Lee, I'm not sure what the question is. As far as I know, it is. Wouldn't that be cool? Let's say we all go to Voetenland and Kayla and say, "Hey, look, could you put the movement in there for us and secure it?" And then what we may have to do is disassemble it to get the dial-in hands on it. But I like that idea. That's a good idea. And once we get it, then we have it with the movement in the case. Yeah. I mean, listen, like I said, I know why you feel like this sounds like the daunting part is putting the movement together and getting the right measurements on the case. So, hey, you know what we could do? This wouldn't be hard. While we're waiting for this whole thing to shape up, we could order our own parts and sort of put one together. Okay, I think we've done that before. Didn't we do that a while back? We had a watch and I got all the different parts for it and then we put it all together. It's not that hard, but maybe that would be a fun thing, sort of a practice run. I don't know why. It's not that I don't trust somebody else to do it. I don't know. Maybe that's one of my idiosyncrasies that, hey, I'd rather do it myself. Make sure it's done right. I don't know. There's another thing too, is they're going to ask us about what level of testing. Okay, on a watch, you'll see on the back that. Let me see if I got this one. This is a neat watch too. Excuse the light for a second. I hope that's not too much. But this doesn't say on it. Some of them do. They'll say this thing has been tested in 10 positions or however many. I think the most is 6. And they may ask us, do you want it tested in different positions? And the more positions it's in, that it's tested in, the more it's going to cost. I think, oddly, with a low number like this, it may not be that much because it wouldn't take them that long. On the other hand, you got 1,000 watches and you want them all COSC, it's going to take a lot of testing. Drew, we've already done that. Drew, we've been working on this for months now. Tell Rolf he's going to sell that watch. I'll take it off his hands for $50. Okay, I'll tell him that, and I'll tell him who's told me that too. Okay, here's a name, Drew, that we're looking at. What is it? And I think I may be leaving out an accent or two. I believe that's it. Okay, and then some people say, well, we should have a number, and so this one is going to be okay. So it'll be Premier Montreux. It's not gone. I wish I had printed that out. I'll print it out. Come back this afternoon, and I'll have it there. Is that the right name? Because you were the guys that came up with the name. When Bruce wasn't here, wanted to name it after a goat. That's okay. Oh, we should have a goat of some sort. I think we've gone beyond. Is that? Thanks, Hugh. That's Hugh corrected, spelled it correctly. In fact, Hugh, you may have been the one that came up with it. I don't remember. I know it wasn't me. I wasn't sure what to name it. In fact, I didn't even want a name, but this might be a good one that we could use. If it's successful, we'll be in trouble. Yeah, no, I think, several people did. Indrajit was one of the guys, and somebody else said one thing, and Indrajit said another. Yeah, there he is. That's it, Indrajit. You were one of the guys who came up with one half, and somebody else came up with the other half. So, okay, how about this? And that worked. And as Indrajit said, without the S. Leave it to me to misspell it. Can we say Swiss adjacent? Swiss adjacent. Oh, I think what we ought to do, this is what FP Jorn does. What FP Jorn does is he says it's Geneva made. It was, the Swiss going this big thing about what they can call Swiss made. So he calls this Geneva made. We had to name ours. I'll name it after my town, Bloomfield. Swiss adjacent. Oh, I think not on this one, but on my Langenheim, he put Saxony made or Saxon made, something like that, because it was made in Dresden. I don't know. I guess we could put it on the dial. I don't know. Yeah, Hughes, I tell you, this watch, I've come to appreciate it more because it feels so good. It's just a nice one to wear, nice watch. And then I like looking at the back. Look at the workmanship and this is the fun thing about a watch like this. Now, one of these days, I'm going to get an email or something from Rolf saying, "Okay, send it back." So it's all right. Hey, watch and pray. You're from Bloomfield, watch and pray? Oh, great. This is the Bloomfield is a non-metropolis. Okay, guys. Oh boy, we're over time-wise. Tell Ralph I'm a random guy on the internet. The exposure value from selling to me is priceless. If you mean without price or without value, you're right. Okay, guys, gotta run. So the yeah, there you go, Drew. Here's the thing: if we got to get, we have to have a little more conversations about some of these things. And the best place we can do it every day, asynchronously. So that means that the guys over in China or the guys in the Pacific Coast or anywhere else, we can do it whenever we want to. So please, if you want to go ahead with this project, then sign up for the jumping. No, it's called the Retrograde Jump Project. Okay, Retrograde Jump Project. Go there, sign up, and hasta la vista. Okay, and everybody be safe.